Mary Magdalene, or Mary Magdala, and sometimes the Magdalene, is a religious figure in Christianity. She's usually thought of as the second most important woman in the New Testament after Mary, the mother of Jesus. Mary Magdalene traveled with Jesus as one of his followers. She was present at Jesus' two most important moments, the crucifixion and the resurrection. Within the four Gospels, she is named at least 12 times, which is more than most of the apostles. The Gospel references describe her as courageous and brave enough to stand by Jesus in his hours of suffering, death, and beyond. In the New Testament, Jesus cleansed her of 7 demons, which is sometimes interpreted as referring to complex illnesses. Mary was most prominent during Jesus' last day and his crucifixion. John 19:25 states, "But standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister and Mary Magdalene." Mary Magdalene was there supporting him in his final moments and mourning his death. She stayed with him at the cross after the other disciples had fled. She was at his burial, and she is the only person that all four Gospels say was first to realize that Jesus had risen. Mark 16:9 states, "Now after he had risen, early on the first day of the week, he first appeared to Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons." She was there at the beginning of a movement that was going to transform the West. She was the apostle to the apostles, an honor that the 4th century Orthodox theologian Augustine gave her. Throughout the centuries, there have been many extra-biblical speculations about her role before and after she met Jesus. These have included wife, mother, and secret lover. Her role seems to have been sort of a leader among the women following Jesus, kind of like the role of Simon Peter among the men. Some assume Mary Magdalene was a prostitute because of Luke 7:36-50, which states, "When one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that town who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, so she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, 'If this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner.' Jesus, being the forgiving Son of God, forgave Mary for her sins and told her to go in peace." It is at the time of the crucifixion and resurrection that Mary Magdalene is mentioned in the Gospels. Uniquely among the followers of Jesus, she is specified by name and a witness to the 3 key events: Jesus' crucifixion, his burial, and the discovery that the tomb was empty. Mark 15:40, Matthew 27:56, and John 19:25 mention Mary Magdalene as a witness to the crucifixion, along with other various women. Luke does not name any witnesses, but mentions women who had followed him from Galilee standing at a distance. John 20:16 and Mark 16:9 both say that Jesus' first post-resurrection appearance was to Mary Magdalene alone. In Matthew 28:9, Mary Magdalene is with the other women returning from the empty tomb when they all see the first appearance of Jesus. After her first report to the named apostles that Jesus was risen, Mary Magdalene disappears from the New Testament. She is not mentioned in the Act of Apostles, and her fate remains undocumented. In my opinion, the story of Mary shows a lot about Jesus' character. He didn't just hang around people with spotless reputations. His followers struggled in sin just like everyone else. Jesus did not choose to shame Mary Magdalene like some did. He forgave her for her sins and moved on. This story also shows how Jesus looks at our hearts. He saw that even though Mary had made mistakes, she really did have a good heart and longed for forgiveness. She may have had a bad reputation, but that didn't put her behind anyone else in God's eyes. Sometimes we judge people way harder for certain sins that society says are worse than others. In God's eyes, a sin is a sin. Instead of getting stuck on other people's sins, no matter if they are a prostitute, homosexual, adulterer, or anything else, we should take a break from judging them and choose to show forgiveness and compassion. We should strive to be like Jesus, and gossiping and shaming others isn't what he would do.